Curtin Radio.
Welcome back. We have Trevor Tough, Outback Graves, joining us in the studio. Good to see you again, Trev.
Thanks, Jenny. Thanks for having us.
Oh, always a great pleasure. You had people up at your home last weekend.
We did, yes. We had a general meeting last Saturday. Had a whole bunch of people and some new people come along.
These are people that are interested in what you're doing?
Yes, it included some people whose relations have been buried in isolated places, and we're on the track for that.
Oh, they haven't known up until now, and hopefully with yourself.
Yeah, they've come to us for some help.
For some help.
Yeah.
Oh, look, how fantastic. The people that have come from descendants from living in the outback would have some great stories.
Oh, they do.
And this would really sort of give the end of the story by being able to get a plaque on there.
And the really nice thing with the relatives is that they have family photos and a lot more story and history
good,
that
but
we
they
can
can
put
add
up on our website. Yeah.
So give us the website again to everybody.
It's outbackgraves.org.
Okay, simple as that.
Yeah.
If you have anything you'd like to speak to Trev about, you might be a descendant from way up north somewhere, or going across east, maybe on the Nullarbor. You know, people lived out there for a long time, didn't they, on the railway line? Constructing it and rabbit shooting and the rabbit-proof fence and all that sort of work they did.
We haven't done much on the east-west railway line yet, but we're working a lot around the goldfields.
It's a big state.
It is a big state.
You've got a lot of ground to cover. Now, this is interesting today. Unusual place names. We don't really think about it that much when we hear the names, and certainly don't know why they are called that.
Well, a lot of these places, I guess, you wouldn't have gone to, and most other people wouldn't have gone to either. So I thought it might be nice if you had a go at pronouncing them.
I have tried this morning.
Have you?
Yeah. How about Widgymiltha?
Yeah, Widgymiltha that's one of my most favourite of the funny names. It's a small town just south of Coolgardie as you head down towards Norseman. And you have to turn off the highway to find a handful of remaining houses there. I guess there's probably about 50 people live there.
How do they survive, can I ask you?
They have earth-moving businesses and they work
for
on stations
owners.
And that sort of thing.
Okay.
Yeah. And last year we just happened to be parked in Coolgardie, and we were approached by a lady who told us that her husband was buried at a salt lake out from Widgymiltha.
Why would they bury someone in a salt lake? Maybe it was a lake at the time.
Well, I suppose it was a nice close place to Widgymiltha, right?
But in a salt.
Preserve him well.
Oh, yeah, it could be.
And she introduced herself to us as Jane from Widgie, which implies that she's the only Jane living there. So I thought, in the same line, we might introduce you as Jen from Subi.
What a great idea. If I have an unmarked grave, would you check it out for me and put a plaque on there for me?
Jen
Thank you.
from Subi.
Good on you. Now, Gabonintha.
That's the one. Yeah. Gabonintha is in the Shire of Meekatharra, and it's about 40 kilometres south of the township of Meekatharra. And in its day, it was quite an established place back in the 1890s, and it even had a race course.
Wow.
And the cemetery there was also known as the Star of the East, and it was named after the mine close by of the same name. And there's 8 graves at Gabonintha. 2 were mining accidents. Jacob Maddock, a miner aged 43, fell down a winze on the 11th of May 1895. And a winze is a vertical shaft connecting 2 horizontal drives in a mine.
Horrible.
I guess it's very dark in there, and down he went.
Awful.
Then on the 5th of February 1901, William Dalziel, aged 35, was killed when he fell down a shaft at the Tumblegum mine. I love that Tumblegum, the way they spell it, isn't that lovely?
Yeah.
And so mining was a pretty perilous occupation in those days.
That's for sure. Before we go on, these names, are they Aboriginal?
I would think some of them are, but often they're quite distorted from the way the Aboriginals. It's a
originally said
white fella's interpretation of it. Yeah.
We always do that, don't we? Nawathanna.
Yes,
Nawathanna.
Nawathanna is also in the Shire of Meekatharra. It's about 50 kilometres south of Meekatharra on Polel Station, and it's about 10 kilometres south of Gabonintha we just talked about. And it was an alluvial gold area back in the 1890s, and in fact it's still being scraped around and fossicked by gold hunters today. There's lots out there. And we marked 3 graves there. One was for a lady called Susan Armstrong, and she was a milliner who died aged 45 of natural causes on the 16th of February 1897. And so you might wonder, what was she doing there? Well, making hats. Well, only a short distance away was the Gabonintha racecourse. So she was probably making hats for the ladies to wear at the coming race meeting.
That's a bit of dignity.
Yes, Melbourne Cup stuff. And we also marked the graves of Anthony Callaghan, who was a miner aged 38, and he died of dysentery on the 2nd of October 1899. And John Stevens, another miner, who died aged about 55 when he fell into a cement pit. So dysentery and hygiene-related diseases were common, and as were mining accidents. And we could see the three graves, but we don't know who's in which one. So we put them in date order, and engraved near here lies on their plaques.
How incredible. Yeah, pretty dangerous life out there. Absolutely.
It was, yeah.
And of course they wouldn't have been, these English migrants maybe, some of them, other parts of the world, wouldn't have been used to these arid conditions.
No, that's right. And the fact is, if you got hurt or sick, you probably just died.
There would be no medical help out there. Ngungurra.
Ngungurra is just south of the present township of Sandstone, which was originally called Black Range. And it was the burial ground for those who died at Black Range and surrounding mines like the Ivy Linden. We're currently making the plaques for Ngungurra, and we'll place them in mid-April. We'll be going up there. And they include the grave of a 48-year-old Japanese market gardener. I think I told you this story once before, but his name was Uekichi Murahata, who after a day in town having a few drinks, he returned to Ngungurra. On arriving at the pig pen, he was warned by the caretaker not to go in there, as the boar was in a bad mood that day. However, his bravado overcame caution, and he climbed into the boar pen and was savaged by the pig, and his femoral artery severed. So he died on the 9th of March 1907, which is about this time of year 114 years ago.
That's pretty gross, isn't it?
It is.
They really can do those sort of things, these pigs, can they?
Well, I guess if he'd been on his own, he would have got eaten as well.
Never get into the pig pen.
Don't get it after a few drinks.
No. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's horrible. Is that Warraga?
Warraga, yep. You're doing really well, Jenny. And it's in the Shire of Yalgoo at an old siding on the Meekatharra line, about 40 kilometres west of Yalgoo. And there are only 5 graves there, but only 3 are visible. One is of George Smith, who died of heart disease at the age of 64 on the 15th of November 1898. And the story goes that the original cemetery site was needed to enlarge the dam for the mine, so the bodies were exhumed and relocated about 250 metres south of the dam.
Can I ask you if there's a medical condition that sees the end of their life? Do they ever have an autopsy? How did they know it was a heart problem?
Often did.
They did do that.
Have autopsies,
okay, so there was the law was overseeing all this.
There were some doctors about. The major mines had doctors.
Okay, Murgoo Station.
Yes, Murgoo is in the Shire of Murchison, and it's on the Sandford River, about 140 kilometres north of Pindar. And some of your listeners will know that Pindar is about 30 k's east of Mullawa, and that's where the beautiful wreath flowers grow along the edge of the road.
Aren't they beautiful?
Absolutely amazing.
In gravel. It's in more gravel soil.
And yet you walk off into the natural bush, there's none. It's only where it's been graded on the edge of the road.
You wonder why that is the case, but they are beautiful to see.
How did they get there?
Well, that's a good point. Yeah, hey, grave.
So Murgoo was a well-established place, and it had race meetings as well. And there's 6 known graves there, including that of Henry Kaoro, who died on or about Christmas Day, 1895. And he was buried near Mungella Cottage, 5 miles from the homestead on Murgoo. And the informant of his death was Mr. M. Maloney, a squatter at Murgoo. And Henry died accidentally by falling down the well and drowning. It was reported to Police Constable Richard Donovan of Mount Whitnoon Police Station, and he pulled the body out of the well and buried him there. Henry Kaoro was last seen alive on the 23rd of December 1895 by an Aboriginal named Pom Pom.
Incredible. Mulwaree.
Yes, Mulwaree is in the Shire of Menzies, about 80 kilometres southwest of Menzies, between Malleen and Davyhurst. We've marked 7 graves at Mulwaree, dated from 1899 through to May 1905.
That's a lot, isn't it? Obviously they had quite a population right back. Wagon, is it, or Wagon?
Warrawagine.
Warrawagine, you got me.
I knew I'd catch you on that one.
You did.
It's in the Shire of East Pilbara, northeast of Marble Bar, and it's next to the Bamboo Creek mine, and about 40 kilometres, I suppose, as a crow flies from the now abandoned town of Shea Gap. In early June 1919, Charles Atkinson, aged 31, was kicked in the head by a horse at Warrawagine Station. They tried to take him by buggy to Roban for help, but he died on the way at Yarrie Station and was buried there. And we've marked his and 6 other graves at Yarrie, including Jinnah Kali, a tribal leader and rainmaker, who died in November 1959, and 2 men who died cleaning out a well on the 28th of December 1956.
Nobody lived a long life, did they? Now, where the heck did this name come from?
I have no idea.
Bummers Creek.
Bummers Creek, but it's lovely, isn't it?
It is, it's cute.
And it's in the Shire of Leonora. It's the small settlement of Bummers Creek was located along the road to Laverton, about 30 kilometres from Leonora. And a pub and some dwellings sprang up around a natural depression or soak, which after some rain must have been a welcome waterhole. And even now, huge peppercorn trees still provide a welcome shady spot, only a few hundred metres from the modern highway. We placed a plaque near the ruins of the hotel for John Ryan, a miner aged 28 who died of thirst some days before the 10th of November 1898. Having been away from his camp for 2 days, he was reported to the Malcolm Police as missing on the 11th of November near the Black Chief mine. As a consequence, his body was found by Constable Pearce, accompanied by a black tracker, 5 miles from Bummers Creek on the side of a very rocky range and breakaway. The remains were in very decomposed state. A jury of 3, after viewing the decomposed body and hearing the evidence, returned the verdict that the deceased had perished in the bush for want of water. He was buried on the 26th of November 1898.
What about Bardock?
Bardock is a cemetery near the old town of Bardock, which is just 45 kilometres north of Kalgoorlie on the highway to Menzies. And we've marked 28 graves there, dating from 1896 through to 1911, and it's in the Shire of Kalgoorlie.
And Birragrin?
Yeah, Birragrin is about 30 kilometres north of Sandstone, and it's just a patch of bush now. There's nothing at all left there. But we marked 2 graves there. One was the actual grave of Thomas Hall, a miner aged 57 who died of natural causes on the 10th of July 1908. The other grave we couldn't find, but we placed a plaque for Frederick Geary, an engine driver aged 42, so he was quite young, and he had died of an attack of colic on the 8th of October 1907. We know he's buried nearby, hence we grouped them together, and his plaque also has "Near Here Lies" engraved on it. And even though we can't find his grave, he is now included in our database. And
fantastic.
And his story is told.
Okay, we've got a call coming through. We'll just turn him off. Very good afternoon to you, Brian.
Good afternoon, Jenny, and your guest.
Yes.
I know you're mostly talking about names at the moment. I've just remembered that in my father's effects, I've got 3 black and white negatives of Rutter's grave, Rutters.
Oh, yes.
I think somewhere in this grave, near a granite outcrop, and there's a tombstone is made of that, but I must be north of Laverton or somewhere.
Okay. Would you be able to email or scan those photos and email them to us?
I can get one. I can't, but one of my younger family can.
Okay. Have you got a pen? We can write down the website.
Just let me get inside now.
Yeah, no, that's okay. We'll wait. Shall we give your email address?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Yep. I'm ready.
Okay. Lowercase, of course. Trevor.
Hello.
Trevor at Outback Graves. .org.
Okay, then I'll try and get one of my family to do that for you.
That is fantastic. Thank you very much indeed. That's what you want to hear, isn't it?
Thanks, Brian.
Isn't that great? If people want to ring through if they're trying to trace, the people from before them in the history of their family. Okay, so there you go. You can follow up on that. We're going to keep you busy, aren't we? Forever. We'll be doing this when you're 100.
It's flooding in, yes.
No, that's interesting. People are really enjoying it. Kudadi.
Kudadi is near the Big Bell mine, which is about 40 kilometres northwest from Kew. And there are 4 known graves there at Cudadia, one being a bloke called James Hackett. And he died in 1894 and is buried about 16 miles west of the homestead on Cudadia Station at Big Bell near Kew. An old fence post, which was some sign of the grave, could still be seen in 2007. Jim Bailey, a friend of his, believed that Hackett and a mate were digging a well when Hackett decided, after a night on the rum, to go and shoot a kangaroo. It was said James Hackett was a man whom apparently got lost and died of thirst. As he failed to return, his mate went looking for him. Noticing cattle looking at something on the ground, on further investigation, he found Hackett's body.
Yundamindra.
Yes, Yundamindra is in the Shire of Leonora, and it's east of Kukaini and southeast of the town of Leonora. In 2019, we marked 13 graves there, and only one had an identifying marker, so the other 12 we marked as near here lies and placed them in a row in date order. But of the 13 buried there, 3 were stillborn babies and 2 were men who committed suicide.
Well, if you start putting these stories together, there's that link of isolation and no support and hard lives.
Yes, and we end up feeling like we know them, and different people on our team say, "Oh, that's one of mine." You know, they sort of have a bit of ownership of.
Well, when you start, because
stories.
you have a team that do research on the names that you get, because I find that's amazing how you manage to get so much information from an unmarked grave.
Yeah, the stories are wonderful, aren't they?
How do you? Okay, you find an unmarked grave. No one's told you to go there, so you have no background. How do you start to find out who it might be?
Oh, we give it to our magic research ladies, and they get into Trove and look up all newspapers and police records and
people that died in that area around that time.
There was nearly always they were reported.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah. Now, oh dear, Yarragaby. Yarragaby, okay.
Yeah. And that's another sighting on the Meekatharra line, and it's about 25 kilometres southwest of Mount Magnet. The only grave we've marked there is that of James Joseph Starling, a premature baby born on the 18th of September 1901, and he survived for just 1 day.
Okay. And one more, because we've got to go move on. Yep.
This is quite a nice little story, if you can call it that, at Urilla. And that was a small town mining centre in the Shire of Menzies, about 38 kilometres southeast of Kukaini. And one man buried there was William Ferris, who died on the 12th of November 1905 at his camp at Mount Catherine. He was a single man, had only been 2 months at Urilla, but he was apparently in very poor circumstances.
Right.
His camp being destitute of bare necessities. The deceased with 2 mates were sampling some stone. In the act of dollying one sample, Ferris laid his head on his mate's knees and expired.
Oh my gosh.
An examination of the body by Corporal Cunningham found no marks of violence. Thus, they returned a verdict of death by natural causes.
Fantastic as always, Trev. Great history and great information. Outbackgraves.org if you wish to find out more about what you guys do.
Yeah.